Здравствуйте, меня зовут Маргарита Владимировна Киселева. Я рада приветствовать вас на Герценовской конференции молодых ученых, посвященной вопросам лингвокультурологии. My name is Margarita Vladimirovna, and I'm delighted to welcome everyone at our Herzen Young Scholars Conference. The conference is devoted to the close relationship of language and culture. Well, it is a very well-known fact that language is influenced by and also reflected in culture. People who know only one language, their native language, are not able to see the diversity of this close relationship. So, today's conference participants are the students who learn more than one foreign language. So they are able to present cross-cultural surveys they made on examples taken from a wide range of languages. Let's begin with the founder of the idea, Wilhelm von Humboldt. As he put it, each language draws a circle around the people to whom it adheres, which is possible for the individual to escape only by stepping into a different one. Languages differ from one another in the same way and to the same degree as those who use them. The most famous one. Language is an organ of our vision, perception, and thinking. We see the world through the prism of our language. It means that when we learn a new language, we step out of the circle drawn around us by our language. We start seeing and perceiving the world in a different way. We start building bridges to other people, nations and cultures, worldviews. In videos presented by the conference participants, you will find a lot of interesting comparisons of different languages and cultures. The presentations will shed light on the languages and cultures and thus enrich your worldview. Every viewer can become a participant. And you can create your own video presentation on issues raised here, or present a separate linguistic culture study. You are welcome to make comments, ask questions, and what is more important, give your own examples taken from other languages and cultures you are familiar with. So this research will be continued, and I hope will lead to bigger scientific collective work. If you would like to make a contribution to our research, you can explore any area of linguistics and culture. Take Lexis, semantics, new modern objects and concepts come to our life. So new words, neologisms appear in every language. Give us examples on that. Let's compare. As long as archaic words disappear. The same happens in syntax. Old-style constructions and expressions become rarely used. Grammar rules change. As for English language, in the 20th century it maintained a certain stability, having gone through a series of changes centuries earlier. In Shakespeare's example, you see grammar patterns which used to be used so many years ago, centuries ago. Unthrifty loveliness, why dost thou spend upon thyself thy beauty's legacy? Nature's bequest gives nothing but does lend, and being friend, she lends to those are free. Spelling rules change. Many European languages have gone through reforms in the early 20th century. The most common language reform option involves spelling simplification. In 1917, in Russia, during the reform of Russian spelling, a decree was signed to abolish the letter yat. This greatly made the life of scholars easier, also dividing literature, all patterns, documents, letters, books, publications, periodicals into before and after. But we lost something with this letter. You see, in my example, we used to spell the word eat, Russian word есть, which means eat, with this letter. And that's how you could differ one есть from another, which means to be. Now we have a lot of confusion with that. Well, examples of major language reforms of Chinese language. In 1920s, there was replacing Wenyan Classic Chinese, also known as literally Chinese, with colloquial Chinese Putonghua as a standard written language. Putonghua is selected by a special committee from a number of common dialects in the Chinese language. In the 50s, only China replaced traditional characters with simplified ones. If you can present any examples of that, let us see the difference. You're welcome to. Well, as for another very important area, we want to discuss intercultural communication. The awareness of the relationship of language and culture makes a foundation for the development of intercultural communication skills. Successful intercultural communication takes place when the foreign language learners' communication patterns and their understanding of the deeper structure of such patterns overlap sufficiently with those of the native speakers. Learners can normally achieve this over a period of time, at least as a starting point to what we could more appropriately be considered as a lifelong journey. Through varied communication encounters with native speakers and through exposure to mass communication, the language learners become more conscious of many of the actions and attitudes of the target language community. They realize that their culturally bound ways of thinking and behaving are not universally shared. They learn different ways of responding to the environment from a very simple comportment, such as expressing gratitude to a friend, to more complex social interactions, such as developing and maintaining an intimate relationship with a member of a different cultural and linguistic community. And here we come to a very interesting point, namely the cognitive aspect of intercultural communication, which is related to the capacity of being mentally flexible in dealing with ambiguity and unfamiliarity. When you learn a language, a foreign language, your cognitive flexibility is dependent on the number of descriptive and explanatory ideas at their disposal for the ability to make sense of and to integrate new information into pre-existing cognitive structure. That is to say, your ability to bend your way of thinking and to be receptive to new cultural patterns. This flexibility of perception and thought patterns is a key to openness and acceptance of another culture, and thus to successful cross-cultural adaptation. So when you learn a foreign language, when you speak it, you inevitably acquire crucial things which today's modern, young, educated scholar cannot survive without. And let me give you one most common example of cross-cultural confusion, just for those who visited Russia. If you visited Russian homes, you can remember this example. When the hosts ask you to take your outdoor footwear off and offer the guests their own home footwear, called in Russian tapochki, slippers. Well, taking shoes off at home is accepted in many cultures, but guests are rarely requested to wear host home slippers. Well, some people are embarrassed. But others agree that it's a good way to get rid of the street dust, not letting it in at home. So they even bring this tradition back to their countries. If you have anything interesting to share, you're welcome.